In the 1990s, there was no bigger name in home entertainment than Blockbuster Video. Walking into one of its bright blue and yellow stores on a Friday night was a ritual for millions of families. The aisles filled with rows of VHS tapes and later DVDs, the smell of popcorn near the counter, and the thrill of picking out a movie for the weekend was a part of everyday life. Blockbuster wasn't just a store, it was an experience. What started as a single store in Texas grew into a worldwide empire, only to collapse almost overnight as the digital age took over. This is the story of the rise and fall of Blockbuster Video, a company that once seemed unstoppable, but ultimately became a cautionary tale of how quickly technology can leave even the biggest businesses behind. Blockbuster was founded in 1985 by David Cook in Dallas, Texas. At the time, video rentals were becoming increasingly popular, but most rental stores were small mom-and-pop shops with limited selections. Cook, who had a background in data processing, saw an opportunity to bring a more organized and customer-friendly approach to the industry. Instead of a few hundred tapes, his store offered thousands, neatly arranged by genre, with the now iconic blue tickets labeling each movie. His idea was simple: make renting movies easy, convenient, and fun, and it worked. By the late 1980s, Blockbuster was expanding rapidly. The stores had a clean, consistent look and a family-friendly image that helped them dominate the market. Parents knew they could take their kids into Blockbuster without worrying about inappropriate content being front and center, something that wasn't always the case with smaller rental stores. Blockbuster also invested heavily in marketing, using catchy slogans like "Make it a Blockbuster night" to encourage families to see movie rentals as an essential part of their weekend plans. By the early 1990s, Blockbuster had become the largest video rental chain in the United States. The company went public in 1989, and its growth only accelerated. At its peak, there were over 9,000 Blockbuster stores worldwide, serving millions of customers. The company was also known for its late fees, which became both a source of frustration for customers and a major revenue stream for the business. Forgetting to return a movie on time might mean paying more in fees than the actual rental cost. But people kept coming back because Blockbuster's selection and convenience were unmatched. In the mid-1990s, Blockbuster's dominance seemed unshakable. It struck deals with major movie studios to secure early access to new releases, ensuring that customers could find the latest hits on the shelves. The company also expanded internationally, opening stores in countries like Canada, the UK, and Australia. It even launched its own line of Blockbuster-branded popcorn and snacks, aiming to be the one-stop shop for movie nights at home. In 1994, Blockbuster was purchased by Viacom for around $8.4 billion, a deal that reflected just how valuable the company had become. Under Viacom, Blockbuster continued to expand and even tried to diversify its business. It briefly got into the video game rental market, partnering with Sega and Nintendo, and later experimented with renting out DVDs as the technology became popular in the late 90s. However, the seeds of Blockbuster's downfall were already being planted. The internet was starting to change how people consumed entertainment, and Blockbuster was slow to adapt. While it remained focused on its physical stores, new companies like Netflix were emerging with a different approach. Founded in 1997, Netflix started as a DVD by mail service, offering customers the convenience of renting movies without leaving their homes. There were no late fees, no trips to the store, and a wider selection than even the biggest Blockbuster location could offer. At first, Blockbuster dismissed Netflix as a niche player. After all, Blockbuster was making billions of dollars in revenue, while Netflix was just a small startup. But Netflix had something that Blockbuster didn't: a vision for the future. By the early 2000s, Netflix was already investing in streaming technology, preparing for the day when movies could be watched instantly online. In 2000, Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings famously approached Blockbuster with an offer to partner. He suggested that Blockbuster buy Netflix for $50 million and use its technology to create an online rental service. The executives at Blockbuster laughed at the idea. They believed their brick-and-mortar model was untouchable, and they saw no reason to change what was working. This decision would prove to be one of the biggest missed opportunities in business history. While Blockbuster continued to rely on late fees and physical rentals, Netflix kept growing. By 2004, Netflix had over 2 million subscribers and was becoming a household name. Blockbuster eventually tried to compete by launching its own online rental service, Blockbuster Online, but it was a little too late. Customers were already gravitating toward Netflix, which offered not only the convenience, but also a subscription model that felt fairer and easier than paying per rental. At the same time, Redbox kiosks started appearing outside grocery stores and gas stations, offering DVD rentals for just about $1 a night. Redbox's low prices and convenient locations further chipped away at Blockbuster's customer base. While Blockbuster was still charging several dollars per rental plus potential late fees, Redbox and Netflix were offering cheaper, simpler alternatives. By the late 2000s, the shift to digital streaming was accelerating. Services like Netflix and Hulu were beginning to offer movies and TV shows on demand, directly through computers and eventually smart TVs. Blockbuster tried to pivot by launching Blockbuster On Demand, but it was too far behind. The company's infrastructure and business model were built around physical stores, and adapting to digital required a level of agility that Blockbuster simply didn't have. One of the most controversial aspects of Blockbuster's decline was its reliance on late fees. In 2004, the company announced that it would eliminate late fees, a move that was meant to win back customers who had grown tired of being penalized for returning movies late. However, this change ended up costing Blockbuster hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenue, further weakening its financial position at a time when competition was fierce. By 2010, Blockbuster was in serious trouble. The company filed for bankruptcy that year, unable to keep up with the rise of streaming and the shift in customer habits. In 2011, Dish Network purchased Blockbuster's remaining assets, but the brand was a shadow of its former self. Most of the stores were closed, and the company's attempt to compete with Netflix's streaming service never gained traction. What made Blockbuster's fall so dramatic was how quickly it happened. In less than a decade, the company went from being a dominant force in home entertainment to being almost entirely irrelevant. Its failure to see the potential of streaming and to adapt to changing customer preferences is often cited as a classic example of what happens when a company becomes too comfortable with its success. Today, there's only one Blockbuster store left in the world, located in Bend, Oregon. This lone store has become something of a nostalgic tourist attraction, with people visiting just to experience the feeling of walking through a Blockbuster one last time. It's a reminder of a bygone era when choosing a movie meant wandering through the aisles, reading the back of VHS boxes, and hoping your first choice wasn't already rented out. Blockbuster's legacy, however, is more than just nostalgia. It represents a moment in time when physical media was king, and when movie rentals were a social event. Families and friends would spend time together picking out movies, debating which ones to watch, and making an entire evening out of it. There's something about that experiences that streaming services, for all their convenience, can't quite replicate. The rise and fall of Blockbuster is also a cautionary tale about innovation. The company wasn't brought down simply because of Netflix or Redbox. It fell because it failed to recognize the changing landscape of technology and consumer behavior. Blockbuster had the brand recognition, the customer base, and the resources to dominate the streaming era if it had acted early. In fact, when Netflix was struggling in its early years, Blockbuster could have bought it and incorporated its model into its own business. Instead, the company clung to a system that was already becoming outdated. Blockbuster's story is a reminder that even the biggest companies need to stay flexible and forward-thinking. Success can create blind spots, and what works today might not work tomorrow. Netflix itself learned from Blockbuster's mistakes, constantly evolving its business from DVD rentals to streaming, and now to producing its own original content. It's a lesson in adaptation that Blockbuster never fully embraced. Looking back, Blockbuster's peak in the 1990s feels like a different world. This was a time when technology was slower, when instant access to entertainment wasn't the norm, and when a Friday night trip to the video store was something people genuinely looked forward to. There was a sense of discovery in browsing the shelves, picking out a movie you hadn't heard of before, or finally getting your hands on a new release that was always rented out. That sense of anticipation and the physical act of renting a movie are things streaming services can't replicate. However, the convenience of streaming is undeniable, and in many ways, Blockbuster paved the way for it. By making movie rentals a mainstream activity, Blockbuster created the foundation for the on-demand entertainment culture we have today. Without Blockbuster, there might not have even been the same demand for convenient home viewing that Netflix and other platforms built upon. In the end, Blockbuster's rise and fall tell us as much about how we consume entertainment as it does about business strategy. The company's meteoric rise was fueled by a genuine love of movies and the idea of bringing them into people's homes. Its fall, on the other hand, shows how quickly technology can render even the most beloved businesses obsolete. But for anyone who grew up in the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, Blockbuster will always be more than just a company. It will be a memory of simpler times, of late-night movie marathons, of picking out a film with friends and hoping you didn't get stuck with a dud. It's a piece of pop culture history that, while gone, is not forgotten. And maybe that's why the last Blockbuster in Oregon continues to draw visitors. It's a living tribute to a time when renting out a movie felt like an event, and when the words "make it a Blockbuster night" meant more than just picking something to watch. They meant creating a memory, a moment, and an experience that streaming alone just can't recreate. Like, comment, and subscribe for daily history and culture content.